Okay, let's get something straight. Nothing I have said or will ever say is anything new. In fact, the very idea of uniqueness is a delusional idea. Little boys hang on to this idea in order to first feel special or to worship somebody else who they think is special, or as a weapon against somebody, as in you're not unique or something like that. In fact, the very concept of uniqueness is a delusional, a mythological concept. There is no such thing as a uniqueness, as nothing does not produce something. Everything and anything you perceive is based on the past. When you are conscious of something, you are perceiving it in the past. But I will not go into this, the idea of what consciousness is, but I will only say this, that I think I've covered this in another of my videos as to what consciousness is. Heidegger actually says that it's a looking back. The depth, or how far back you look, determines the depth of your consciousness, the amount of data you can find in the past, and then assimilate them into cohesive models, which may or may not be valid, but still, the amount of data you can assimilate into your current mental models, looking back, determines the depth of your thinking. This is what makes this whole idea that the past is overcome all the more hilarious. And this idea that people are looking forward, this idea of progress, makes it bizarrely frightening and comedic at the same time. It only exposes a dumbing down, a populace that's being trained or nurtured into remaining like an animal in the moment. In the moment, of course, is a concept that also has no meaning. There is no now. When we say in the moment, we just mean a perceptual event horizon which is very shallow. And that liberals, or these progressives, accuse others of shallowness is again very entertaining. In fact, the very idea of genius is rooted in the idea of memory. A genius is somebody who does not take information just from the current, from the modern, because every age is modern for the individual that lives in it. But that is a mind actually that can sample concepts that precede his existence, that go far back beyond his birth. This is a genius. A genius is somebody who can take this data as if it was something current and then use it to create a mental model by finding a pattern between in the past combined with the present, which reveals something about the world. That's what a genius is. A genius is somebody who comes up with the concept that is timeless, and that it's pragmatic, and that it's viable and relevant beyond the current, beyond the modern. I think at this point it will be good to quote, I think, a genius, George Orwell, who says, the very concept of objective truth is fading out of the world. Lies will pass into history, unquote. One more from Orwell, actually two more. During times of universal deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's the first one, which I like. Who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. And finally, my favorite from Orwell. Let's just focus on Orwell for the moment. We have sunk now to such a depth at which restatement of the obvious is the first duty of intelligent men, unquote. In other words, simply talking common sense is a revolutionary act in this time of decay, of decadence, of sheltering that results in stupidity, in feminization, in morons propagating without control, and then asking for rights from a world that offers no rights, asking for rights, demanding rights from humans who are supposed to protect them from themselves, who are supposed to protect them from the world, which they cannot cope and deal with, simply because what they offer is a protection to the other, a mutual support, if you will. Which brings me to this concept of using one another. I see this in feminism, who accuse men of seeing them as objects, and now in this MRA movement that accuses females of seeing them as objects. Okay, before I proceed further with this using and being used, let me give you a concept, a definition actually, of traditionalism based on what I just said. So traditionalism, what is it? According to me, it's a looking back to tradition. Tradition means your ancestry. To know yourself, as the Spartans urged, as Apollo urged through the oracle at Delphi. To know yourself is to know your past. To know your past means to know your ancestry. And not only that, to accept your ancestry. Because just knowing your ancestry, all the flattering parts, everything that soothes you and makes you feel good, is only part of the story. To know yourself means to accept the parts of your ancestry which are insulting, unflattering, difficult to swallow. It is accepting that. That's what accepting life means. It means accepting all the bad stuff. It's easy to accept the good stuff. Everybody can do it. Every fucking moron out there can do it. And if they can't, they play games, computer games, or they pretend they're a playa, not a paya. It's easy. That's why most morons do it. To accept your past is to accept who you are. To know who your father was, who his father was, down the line, as far back as it can go. It means to know who you are. That's what it means. That's what nature is. It's not some magical, mystical shit that you morons use to comfort yourselves. Nature is not a thing. Nature simply means the sum of all nurturing. Now, if you imbeciles think you can erase the entire past simply by one generation of nurturing, if this comforts you, if this makes you feel good, then you should do so. You should believe in that. But that just makes you a victim of it. You cannot dismiss reality. You can ignore it. You can pretend it's not the way it is, but you cannot escape it. It's gonna fuck you up. The more you escape from it, or you try to dismiss it, or you try to selectively use it to flatter yourself, to comfort yourself, the more you become a victim of it. That's what the MRAs are doing. That's what the feminists did. That's what the Negroes wanting to emancipate themselves did. They wanted to free themselves from the past that they can never free themselves from. We can all act as if we're free from the past. We can all ignore it. We can all remain ignorant of it. Idiots. Doesn't mean we're free from it. We're still governed by the past. Determinism. You cannot escape the past with words or with feel-good ideals. You cannot escape nature. Nature being the sum of all previous nurturing. You cannot escape the sum, centuries, millennia of previous nurturing with a generation of good education, of good training, of proper etiquette. You cannot. You can hide it, you can mask it, you can put a blanket over it, you can pretend it's not there, you can create a world of pretentiousness. You still cannot escape it. You either accept it, and by accepting it, you have a chance of correcting it, or a chance of improving it. That's the only chance you have, by accepting it. A slave who pretends he's not a slave remains a slave forever. A slave who knows he's a slave has a chance, not a guarantee, a chance of becoming more free, not absolutely free, because again, absolutes are non-existent. So again, in traditionalism, the way I define it, I don't give a shit about anybody else, it is an acceptance of the past, no matter what it is. It is a paying homage to your past, doing honor to your ancestry. Doing honor to your ancestry means accepting it, first of all, not selectively, totally, wholly. That's what traditionalism is. The ancient Greeks used to go to their graves, to the graves of their dead. They used to pour wine and salt and food over the graves. That's how they paid homage. When they prayed, they didn't pray to no fucking God. They prayed to their ancestors. And they prayed to the most immediate ancestor they had experience with, their father, their mother. And when they prayed, in fact, they prayed to themselves, because their father and mother participated within them, was a part of them. So they sought guidance, strength within themselves. This is the esoteric structure of traditionalism. With this modern world that dismisses the past, makes believe that it's already overcome, forgets it, trains the mind to seek identity in the present, in the immediate, in materialism, in hedonism, in escapism. In this world, what is being created are castrated minds. Minds so desperate for identity that they will grasp anything that is given to them. This is what the rejection of sexuality entails. This is what feminism preaches. This is what the MRA preaches. A castration from the past. A castration from tradition, from heritage, from ancestry, from nature. A turning away from nature. That's what it means. This is the common ground. This is the nihilistic bullshit these fucking morons are teaching you. They're trying to teach you. Because it's easy. In a world, like I said, where indiscriminate propagation has become a rule, it's easy to assume that most people alive today would not be alive under natural circumstances. So, preaching to these people is preaching to the choir. They want to believe this shit. It gives them comfort, gives them hope. It gives them a way to feel like they are more, like they deserve to be alive, when in fact they don't. Deserving is earned. It's not begged for. I have no words of comforting, no words of hope for you. That's not who I am. I'm not a guru like these guys. I'm not creating a movement. I'm not trying to get followers. I could care less. What I know about the world has helped me to the extent that it has. To my own ability to take advantage of this information, this perception, I have done so. Doesn't mean that I've taken total advantage of it. Some things I cannot totally correct or deal with or cope with. I still know that they are true. To know that something is true doesn't mean to benefit from it immediately. or automatically. To know, to accept something as true just means you accept something as being true, even if it's not to your advantage, even if it insults you, even if you cannot, as an individual, deal with it or correct it. But the only thing you can do with is deal with it, cope with it. That's what being objective means. So when these idiots try to find, in my views, a subjective angle, they're barking up the wrong tree. Nothing I've said is beneficial to me. The acceptance of it might be beneficial to me, because by accepting I have the hope, like I said with the slave, I have the hope of finding a way to compensate. But it doesn't mean I immediately benefit from it. For instance, when I say beauty is not only skin deep, like feminists have taught you, and most of you idiots prefer to believe, but it actually means something. Symmetry means something. Appearance means something. It's not accidental. We didn't develop senses accidentally. We didn't develop senses to be tricked by them. The fact that I say this doesn't mean that I'm beautiful. It just means that I know what the fact is, the truth is, and I'm saying it. That's all it means. Okay, before I go on and on, because there's so many parameters here, and I can go on for hours trying to cover them all. Let me just return to the issue of being used. A lot of these MRAs feel used by females. Well, whoop-de-doo, you fucking morons feel used. And females once used to feel used by men for their bodies. You're becoming emasculated. You're feet bitches now. This is what I wrote about in my essay, The Feminization of Man. You only validate my own positions, that this world is becoming feminized, that men are becoming emasculated, effete, pussies, if you want to use the modern vernacular, faggots. This is a world of homosexuality, lesbianism, where sex doesn't matter as it used to. Because sex doesn't have any purpose anymore. Its only purpose is hedonistic. It's feeling good. It's about emotion, finding support. Which brings me to the topic of being used. We all use each other. A mother uses her child to propagate her genes. A child uses his mother to be protected, to be sheltered. We all use. That's what life is. We are all the resources of somebody else. This is not something to cry about like little bitches. This is something to accept. And by accepting it, to gain strength from. When we talk about balanced relationships or healthy relationships, we mean a relationship where the give and take is balanced, where both parties feel fulfilled by what they are given and what they are giving. It all depends on what you value or what you've been trained to value. Some people value sex extremely. Some people value having kids. Some people value having a nice car. I mean, it could be anything. If somebody gives you something that you value and they ask something in return which you think is comparable in value, then the relationship is balanced. This is what a balanced relationship is. It's about a balanced exploitation. I know exploitation has a bad vibe to it for you fucking morons, or most of you. When I say morons, I mean mostly the idiots who call themselves MRAs, the faggots, the emasculated men children, the feminists, those guys. The rest of you can exclude yourself from this category. Therefore, every relationship, every interaction entails a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy. That's why anarchy is so bizarrely stupid. Anytime you have one or two individuals involved in a relationship, even if it's antagonistic, you have a hierarchy. You have a dominating and a dominated. The dominated will always seek to sustain its dominance. The dominated will either enjoy its being dominated or will try to surpass, to usurp, to become the dominator rather than the dominated. Even a mother uses a child. She uses the child to propagate her genes, or for emotional reasons, because she can't propagate her genes, or because she's bought into some kind of ideal which benefits her, that offers her something. There's a return for everything given. There's no such thing as a selfless act. This is another one of those delusions, those modern mythologies. There's no selflessness. When a man, for example, gives his life for his nation, what has occurred? This man has identified with this abstraction called nation. And in giving his life for this abstraction, he has given his life for his identity, for his self, for his higher self. Another concept of a higher self is God, of course. In fact, this is where the memes come in. The memes always offer an ideal that supersedes the gene. There's much more about it than just that. For instance, with the mother and child relationship, there's an erotic element which Freud had it correct. But I think where Freud stopped was in the concept of mortality. He sort of hovered or remained static on sexuality, and he became obsessed with it. I think the underlying issue with sexuality is mortality. The mother, for instance, sacrifices herself for her offspring because she is destined to die. This is her sacrifice to the propagation of her genes, or 50% of her genes, because she will die anyways. Now, does an animal know all of this? No, it doesn't. All of this is automated. It becomes instinctual. It becomes genetic. So a female bear, she can risk her life, even though she does not know that she will die, or that she's risking her life because she will die, to propagate her genes. She has no concept about any of this. Yet she will do this because she's being programmed by nature. This is what genetics is. This is what eros is, in accordance with the ancient Greeks. And herein lies the difference between eros and agape. And I will not get into this at this moment.